Cancer, and this will be for the month of May, just some extra ones. So what I'm here for whoever this resonates for, and again, you're all on different timelines. I don't always say that every read, I just kind of do them as I'm out and about. You're all on different timelines. This may or may not be your story. Just take what resonates, and we'll get right into it. Okay, so start looking at the Ten of Pentacles. This is the main cards out. Again, most of these are minor arcana, although they're sort of the deeper areas. Sorry, guys, just have to make a little shift here. This is some of the deeper areas that you're having to deal with in regards to some of these minor arcana. So what I want to say here is you are looking at, sorry about the disruption there on the camera. You're looking at to sort of confront some big turning points, basically, is what I would say there. So we are looking at the Ten of Pentacles. So again, this is still in around that range of dealing with family issues. We are also dealing with the King of Pentacles. This is something here that talks about your finances being in focus, especially with the two of those cards. I do have clarifiers, but we'll get to those here in a minute. We also have the Of Swords. So you're still dealing with some heartbreak, betrayal, anything that was causing you some conflict or conflict in this period here as well. And then we've got the Ten of Wands. This is the tail end of it all. So know that you are, whatever this cycle was that you have been really enduring, it's actually, it's just pretty much over. This is the residual end of it. Not only do you have the Ten of Wands, but you also have the Ten of Pentacles. That really speaks to a lot of growth that's taken place. So what I'm going to say there is that this kind of speaks to you being in a turning point. So it's a growth testing, it's a turning point. It's like you are almost in this space of being in the clear, or at least moving into another type of lesson, so long as you've integrated these lessons, successfully and are applying them properly. So that's what I'm going to say there. So again, good indicators of some significant growth, though, for sure, because not only do you have the Ten of Pentacles, you also have the Wheel of Fortune. So this tells me that this is, and of course it is followed up by we've got the Knight of Swords. We also have the Queen of Wands. That's a lot of action. That's a lot of momentum. That's a big shift and that significant change in regards to how you deal with, going forward. So it tells me that the changes in your environment are connected to family and money and your home and your long-term security. So I feel like you are in a fated shift. Something is destined for you and it's unfolding now. So this kind of tells me that this is fast changes that are coming in for you with the Knight of Swords. And it does require you to think quickly and communicate boldly. But the Queen of Wands, tell me, this is confidence. This is leadership. This is that energy of, and sorry guys, just trying to read the, oh, it's tarot. And hi, Aoife. And so what I'm seeing here is, again, this is still that indication that there's fast changes, confrontations, things that you have to really think about with the Knight of Swords. Queen of Wands tells me that this is you navigating it with success. It's confidence, it's bravery, it's all of those things, key tools to getting through things. So I would still say you might be facing some unexpected news in regards to home, family, or financial matters, but there's an inner fire and intelligence to kind of go with the flow now and to sort of meet your challenges. This is where you're actually maturing and taking ownership of things. And that's what the King of Pentacles and the Emperor were, which I had on the other side here. So again, that's your King of Pentacles, that's your Emperor. It could be dealing with an Aries here as well, but your energy oftentimes comes out as a King of Pentacles or a Knight of Pentacles. So this is really in a position of, no, sorry, I don't know Turkish. Hi, Katrina. I do try sometime. I did try the French one time to speak, but I don't know. I have some kind of a mental blockage on that, but I'm not giving up yet. Anyway, but King of Pentacles, it does speak to maturity, discipline, and leadership, but it's also about taking responsibility and you're kind of stepping up to the plate. So now you're in a space where you're taking charge of yourself, your world, you're showing some kind of authority, or you're putting yourself into that position to, kind of resolve things. I do feel like, things can be very heavy for you at times. The responsibilities feel like it's too much. But I feel like you to, work with a new thought pattern about it. It's like you are becoming much stronger. It's a stronger version of yourself, which also indicates that there's more structure and you want to be respected. And so to be respected, you are taking on the qualities of those that represent in that energy. So despite your age, I feel like it's like a rite of passage kind of energy as well. You're going from childhood to adult, or whether or not you are an adult that is in a space of maturing into kind of the next phase of your life. But either way, I still feel like this is that energy of releasing burdens and old patterns and moving much more confident space. Now, I will say with the Ten of Wands, that coupling of all of those cards, we're in around, you again feeling too much internal burden or unhealthy attachments, especially when I see the Magician and the Devil out. That can also be manipulation, whether that's you or another, but there's some kind of unhealthy attachment there. So there's something here that kind of speaks to, you are more powerful than you think, but you're tempted to misuse it, or manipulate, or you're giving into fear or avoidance. So however that shows up in your world, the Knight of Pentacles still tells me, and especially Knight and King of Pentacles, is still about take it slow, steady, practical, because that's how you get things done, is the small steps and being patient. That's the cure, is practical progress and being steady. So that will help you to kind of break free from whatever is, kind of holding you back with this devil energy. And again, you've got King and Knight of Pentacles. So this is really strong, practical, wise energy. I was just trying to read the comment there, but I'm not quite sure on. Maybe we'll ask. It's just slightly coming through in a different language, so I'm not quite sure how to read it, although I can pull a card on it though. But anyway, what I would say is be very mindful of, old traps with the devil. This is your old addictions or old fears or old blockages and emotional triggers and this kind of thing. It's, freedom comes from being patient and consistent. It's not impulsive actions. And I feel like maybe you're expecting something more for all the effort that you're putting out. But success really comes in whatever success means to you. It doesn't have to be financial or whatever, but if success means being stable, then the practical steps are the way to get there. So there's some here about, and of course there can be some measure of risk, but usually it's a better idea to kind of make sure that you're not throwing everything to the, throwing everything to the wolves and just hoping, keeping those fingers crossed for some kind of hopeful result. But what I would still say here is it kind of speaks to almost a heartbreaking realization that, things are not going to be as easy as you expect. You are showing up here in the world and by completing this painful karmic cycle. So there's something here that kind of speaks to this being things that, and you're just about finished it, because right behind the Three of Swords was the World card. So that cycle is just done. So it'll go on to the next lesson basically in your soul cycle. But what'll happen is, again, you've taken a bit of a heartbreaking loss there. It feels like the pain is again a karmic cycle, and you're having to kind of see it for what it is, whatever the illusions, whatever the misunderstanding, whatever there's where anything like that, it's going to clear out with some of this energy with the moon. So it feels like you're in that space of careful not to fall into your self-deception, because there is the energy of you setting yourself free. But the underlying energy is you deep soul searching. And that's because the card at the bottom was the Hermit, and it's also followed up by the Sun. And then it's got your own card out there as well, King of Cups and Cups. So again, I feel like the energy is really moving in a positive direction. Water sign energy, much more optimistic. Hermit, just be patient. Big things are moving. Don't force the outcomes. It'll only feed the fear. This is not a time for you to be really social this month. I would say it's more of still an introspective, wisdom gathering kind of month. And this is where you're finding your own inner light. This is where you're starting to believe in yourself again. This is kind of the deep soul searching theme beneath everything. I would say the best advice would be more along the lines of being patient. Big things are moving. Forcing outcomes only feeds your fear. Own your power, avoid control games or toxic cycles. Carefully, steadily, don't be rash. Let the old pain sort of surface, but at the same token, let it surface, but also don't cling to it. You're not defined by it. Just because the old there, you actually have the wisdom to understand it now, that you are not in control of all the elements that affected you. You are not the one that is in control of, like we all think we have elements of control, but we really only have control of ourselves and how we choose to see the world. And if we see it in a hardship, it becomes a hardship. If we see it in a way of, I can conquer it, I can not conquer the world, but I can conquer, my own inner demons. I can get to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. It's things along that line. So again, you're fluctuating between, feeling proud and capable, which is that King of Pentacles energy, but then you're also doubtful and overwhelmed and confused with the Moon energy. So again, you can balance it all out though with the Hermit energy. And I feel like you're trying to prove yourself in some way to others, but then you're silently doubting if you're good enough. But deep down, you want to be seen as a builder, a protector, someone who has made something last. I feel like this is a healing month for you. You are healing the fear of failure. You are healing the fear of abandonment or rejection, and you're healing unhealthy attachments to people, substance, or ideas. And I take a belief that when you have a belief system, you almost sometimes, you don't have to suffer for it. You have to suffer to be worthy. You have to see yourself in the light of, I'm playing the game of life. Like, I'm learning. I've done this before. I'm learning something new. I can't expect to have all the answers. And so I'm just going through it. So I feel like what progress looks like for you this month is that you're not giving up, even when it's hard, even when it's slow. The improvements are still steady. Even when you feel scared, you're able to let go of toxic habits and mindsets. I feel like you're owning your own strength, but you're not dominating others. You're accepting your emotional states and you're working through them. And again, you're really persevering. You have accepted a lot of truths and not losing hope. So I feel like these are tiny steps toward the major wins. So the obstacles in May, though, I would still say is the temptation, to give up when the burden feels heavy, because you had the 10 of wands out there. But I feel like that it's a false belief, it's not real. Just as you think it is, it's not that you're denying feelings. It's just that sometimes we look at things in a certain way based on an emotion, and the emotion isn't necessarily a true representation of what's actually happening. Sometimes we only, when you're looking through the window, you might see a house or a tree, but that doesn't mean that the tree is stationary and not growing and not a whole, not that there's a lot of other things happening around it. Every day is a new day, and there's a lot of things going on underneath, the tree and root systems and all of that. So what you're seeing is just a picture, a little window glimpse of something. So don't let those old emotional wounds, rise and linger, and make them unrealistic and cloud your mind up, because be cleared. Meaning the ways to clear them would be things like, putting your energy into creative pursuits, putting your energy into things where you actually feel like you have some, it aligns with your belief systems, your goals. And even if you didn't get the goal that you wanted right away, doesn't mean it's not coming. It just means you had to learn a few other things along the way and able to get there. And that is the important thing. More skill set, the better you do in life. Early May, again, I feel sudden changes, maybe in home, family, financial stability, and there's like a quick decision or something that's needed. By mid-May, there's a struggle with an emotional burden and a temptation toward an unhealthy old pattern. And then by late May, it's like there's this deep emotional release. And then once you get that, it's like all of a sudden, you're realizing something about this major karmic cycle. It's completing and it's clearing the path ahead. So I feel like by May and into June, there's a deeper sense of self-understanding. You're wiser, and there's more independent, emotionally stronger thinking. So I would still say, May is where you're kind of tempering your soul a little bit here. You're entering a space in May where you feel like you've got the weight of the world built, but it's partly illusion and partly loving it. Things will start to feel lighter, truer. You feel a lot more independent in May. I feel like you're going to be feeling a lot more capable. And I feel like that heartbreak becomes more of a door instead of a blockage with that Three of Swords. I feel like you see past it now. You see it for what it is. You've integrated the lessons. You realize that you're more than that one moment in time, and you're almost meeting yourself, and not turning away. You're meeting yourself to the point where you're saying, this is what I believe is required. This is what's necessary in life. This is what I value. This is what I want. And if somebody's not coming to the plate, where I can sort of negotiate some kind of happy medium, then I'm not interested in really pursuing it. So I feel like your progress, again, looks like small victories, but they're hidden inside very large storms. And I feel like that storm is clearing the ground for a stronger, wiser version of you to take roots. So even though it feels like there's some tough moments here in May, it is crucial for you to stay grounded and face your real feelings, because you're moving steadily forward. And I definitely feel like there's a lot more that's happening through honesty. That healing is taking place because of honesty, being patient with yourself, and having courage. And the future really does open up to be quite bright. So don't lose heart, because there is a lot going on for you. And again, there's a lot of really good cards that kind of speak to very mature energy, very charged energy, very wise energy, and certainly Wheel of Fortune is turning in your favor to the Ten of Pentacles. That is very, very incredible blessings that will be coming through to you. Now, I would also say, just in closing, as far as any kind of relationship to yourself, I feel like, again, you're still under huge, construction of sorts. I do feel like, you feel the weight to prove yourself in some way, but that you're burdened by the old fears of criticals, telling yourself stories with the devil energy card there, blockages. King of Pentacles and the Emperor is really that deep down that you can be stable and you can be respected and you can be a leader, but it's hard for you to fully trust, because the energy is that you're still pulling back emotionally because you're soul searching. You're asking yourself, am I enough? Am I doing it right? Who am I really? It's all of those things. So you're not rejecting yourself, but you're testing yourself and you're questioning yourself and you refine yourself. It's things along that line. So I feel like you are really in that space now where you're becoming. So some days you only see the scars, and then other days you feel much more capable. And I feel like the fear just eventually starts to fade, and you're starting to move into this really amazing energy of big changes. And it is shifting rapidly, especially even though things might feel a little volatile at times. There's a lot of potential in your read, lots and lots and lots of potential long term. And it's long term energy, but I feel people respect you deeply, even if they don't say it out loud, because you have the potential for stability and leadership. A lot of these cards show me that you are somebody who's willing to walk through the fire of, the problems, the difficult, because you are trying to, work through your own insecurities, your own trigger points, and find ways to create inner peace. And I feel like that is, it only comes from hurt. So, you're preparing yourself for some kind of major upgrade, is what I would say. And May is the turning point. So again, really amazing cards. And I feel like you're starting to see your true self, and it's bigger. I think it's a bigger version than what you had anticipated. Again, you still wrestle with some of your self-image issues. The victory is not about being perfect. It's about, strength through struggle. And it's, I'm thinking of, there's a saying, thing, not perfection, progress, not perfection. There we go. But either way, I just feel like, it's not defining you now. I'm feeling that you're starting to see that you're choosing your own self-respect. This is your own victory. And this is, you might be in that space of, you're kind of getting over that temporary need for approval and misunderstandings of others. And you're really just starting to come into this space of energetically, trying to move into a more, how do I say, stable kind of person. You're finding that inner peace. But again, May is that month of a little bit of turmoil and trying to get there. But so again, you're still wrestling with some of the old self-image and all of that, like I mentioned. But I still feel like you're in that space of really making the big shift in the month of May. So that's what I have for you, Cancer. And keep moving forward. Never give up. And we'll see you in the next read.